All right, everyone, we start off today with the release of a confidential internal memo from the Desantis campaign. It's basically a donor memo, and it says some interesting things. Ron DeSantis' people are apparently not capable of mounting a full-on national campaign and winning, and so their entire strategy, what does it boil down to? They're going to hammer away at a couple of the early states, especially New Hampshire, and hope beyond hope that they manage to cling to like one victory in the first four states. They're not even going to contest Super Tuesday states until they potentially win one of those four states. When you're behind by at least 20 points in all four of those states, while you have massively outraised your main opponent, the only other person in the race that's viable is Trump. We'll get to Tim Scott separately later and why he and Mike Pence have been knocked out. They're done politically. I'd be surprised if Mike Pence managed to cling to the decent third place showing of technical almost viability that he has after last night with Tucker Carlson. Tim Scott somehow fared even worse, and he's supposed to be the dream boy. He's the one waiting in the wings if DeSantis fails, supposedly. I don't fucking think so. The DeSantis memo shows a campaign that's not serious. If you are going to proclaim yourself to be viable, and your candidate is this great guy that has so many positive qualities, well, he's the more well-spoken younger version of Trump. MAGA should love him. And yet you're lagging this far behind in the polls despite having that massive fundraising advantage. It's no longer a serious campaign if privately you're also telling your donors, look, don't worry, we can still do it. We've got a strategy. It's called literally ignoring the entire country to focus on a couple of states, because if we don't win at least one of those first four, we're going to get crushed. Florida is a Super Tuesday state. It looks like DeSantis is going to have trouble even getting a significant number of delegates. I believe that they allocate part of the delegates proportionally, so they might get 2 or something. Ron DeSantis, if he doesn't at least place first in one of the first 4 states, therefore effectively will suspend his campaign. That's the read that I get. It would no longer be a case of having viability. It could be that he collapses in the polls actually before then. The longer that he waits to have a more beefy, serious campaign, the more shaky the foundation underneath the campaign becomes. And the people, the Murdoch family, look like they've soured on him. And they're no fans of Trump. Murdoch has made it quite clear that he's off the Trump train. Now, in his golden boy was Ron DeSantis. And for a moment, DeSantis was rising. This was many months ago. And he was fresh off of his gubernatorial victory, knocked it out of the park with that. He was doing a good job. And it looked like he would be the replacement for Trump. And the Uniparty breathed a sigh of relief. Oh, thank goodness. It looks like Orange Man is actually going to lose this round. But then Trump got indicted. And Ron DeSantis made a series of calculated errors. He's now back down at his holding pattern. I think that there is a good 15% or so of Republicans that are really diehard for Ron DeSantis. But Trump gets about 40% diehard behind him, and he's above that because of softer support in the wake of the indictment. I think some of that has solidified around him. Trump can basically just go on as he is right now through the primaries. There are too many opponents for any single opponent to have the kind of power that's necessary to really challenge him in most of the states. DeSantis, realizing this, has flipped to a strategy that involves, okay, we put all of our effort into, let's say, just New Hampshire and Iowa. If we can win those, it gives us a boost going into Super Tuesday. We can surmount Trump in a few more states. We have a viable path forward at that point. We've outperformed expectations, and we're capable of at least being funded through the end of the race. By then, virtually everyone else will have dropped out, and DeSantis is counting on them all endorsing him. I don't think that's what's going to happen. That is effectively the only path to the nomination that Ron DeSantis would have. Full-on effort in just 2 of the first 4 states, giving him enough of a boost, enough of a claim to viability to win 3 or 4 Super Tuesday states. At that point, Trump probably still wins because he'll still be ahead in the delegate count by a significant margin. DeSantis also gets knocked out if he loses Florida. If he loses the state in which he holds the governorship, he might as well just pack his bags and go. Ron DeSantis, in my opinion, though, before the first state's vote, is likely to do several things. Number one, as things become shakier and less certain for him, some of the cash begins to dry up. The fundraising, which is largely big donors in his case, some of them maybe take a step back because they're like, well, I don't want to bet on the losing horse. I would rather bet on the winning one. And a lot of them made those investments when Rondesantis was riding high anyway. He already had a significant amount of money in campaign contributions effectively on day one. Despite a shaky campaign launch, it was a novel one. It got him attention, and so he got also a bunch of small donations. I think some of that dries up before the states vote, if nothing else changes, if there's no major sea change in the race itself. Maybe a couple of candidates drop out. If everyone who drops out does endorse DeSantis, boosts him up to 30 or something, he's going to be cleaning up enough delegates in proportional states to at least hold on. Number two, I have a feeling, based on the last few months of his campaign, that he will make more tactical errors. Now, he hasn't made errors as bad as what Mike Pence and Tom Cotton did the other day. That was a real fucking humdinger. Again, we'll talk about it separately. But a lot of smaller end mistakes have robbed him of about a third of the support he had at his peak. He was riding at 30, now he's riding at 20, or thereabouts, a little bit above that. That was the only time in the entire campaign that Trump even had a competitor. Trump barely has one in DeSantis now, and nobody else has a political pulse. Again, Mike Pence after last night, I can write him off. He's certainly not going to be a major contender. I'd be surprised if he didn't slip further down the field. Nikki Haley could supplant him. Vivek Ramaswamy, that'd be good. By the way, I have a feeling that Ramaswamy would endorse Trump if he dropped. I don't think he would endorse Ron DeSantis. That 3 or 4 points arguably puts Trump above the level that he needs to be a shoo-in, just so people are understanding where we are. One thing that's the wild card is who drops out and endorses who, roughly, probably a couple before the voting begins, probably a couple after like New Hampshire and Iowa, maybe South Carolina, and then most of the rest of the field after Super Tuesday. After Super Tuesday, we'll know who the nominee will be, by the way. It'll be that quick in the race. We might know before that. I mean, if DeSantis suspends after coming in second place in all 4 of the starting states, and it looks like he'll lose Florida, he'll drop. He doesn't want to be completely humiliated. He wants to still have a political career. So this internal memo is very interesting. Again, they're not even campaigning actively in the Super Tuesday states. That is, in my opinion, probably a calculated error. That's about all. Peace out.